The girl. Nobody wanted. The twin suns burned hot over the alien market. Crowds moved between stalls. Merchants shouted prices. Strange smells floated in the air, spices, smoke, and sweat. In the middle of it all, near a dirty corner, stood a cage. It was old, rusty, and barely big enough for one person. Inside the cage sat a girl. She was not wearing proper clothes, just a torn cloth wrapped around her small body. Her skin was pale, dirty, and covered with bruises. Her arms hugged her knees tightly. Her hair, long and tangled, covered most of her face. No one looked at her. No one stopped. She had been there for many days, maybe weeks. People had asked once, "What species is she?" the buyers had said. "Why is she not speaking? Too thin, too weak, too dirty." Then they walked away. Now no one asked. "She's useless," the merchant had said. "Couldn't even sell her for scraps. I'll throw her in the trash pit if no one buys her soon." But she heard him. She heard everything. Her name? She had forgotten it. Her voice? It hadn't worked in a long time. Hunger made her body weak. Fear made her heart cold. And still, she waited. That morning, something strange happened. A human entered. The market. Humans were rare here. Most avoided this place. It was dirty, illegal, full of cruel business. But this man didn't look scared. He walked slowly, hands in pockets, eyes scanning the crowd. He didn't go to the shiny stalls. He didn't look at the strong fighters or beautiful dancers in cages. He walked toward the corner, toward her. The girl didn't move. She had learned not to hope, not to look up. But still something in her heart ticked. Just once. The human stopped in front of the cage. He stared, not with hunger, not with hate, just quiet surprise. The merchant laughed. "That one? Ha, worthless. You want a real slave? Come look at this strong one." The human raised his hand. "How much for her?" The merchant blinked. "Huh?" I said. "How much for her?" The human asked again. Calm, serious. 15 credits, the merchant said quickly. "No, wait, 10. Or 5? You take her, just take her. I'm tired of feeding her. She won't talk, won't move." The human stepped closer. The girl didn't look up. He crouched down. His voice was low, kind. "Hey, can you hear me?" Nothing. He reached into his bag and pulled out a long coat. Without asking, he opened the cage door and gently placed the coat around her shoulders. Warmth. The girl froze. "No one should be out like this," he said. The merchant barked. "You gonna pay or not?" The human stood, tossed a few credits. The merchant grabbed them fast, laughing like he had just won a game. "She's your problem now." But the human wasn't listening. He bent down and carefully picked up the girl. She was light. Too light. Bones more than body. She didn't resist. She didn't cry. She just held the coat close like a shield. As he walked through the crowd, people stared. Why her? What is he doing? Crazy human. But he didn't stop. He didn't care. The girl's heart beat faster. She didn't understand. She didn't trust, but she didn't want to leave his arms either. He brought her to a small ship just outside the market. The ramp opened. Warm lights glowed inside. He placed her gently on a seat, grabbed a blanket and wrapped it around her legs. "You're safe now," he said softly. She looked up. Just once. His face was not handsome, not scary, just human. Tired eyes. Gentle hands. He went to the console, started the engine and flew them into the stars. She sat still, wrapped in warmth. No one had ever done that for her. No one had ever looked at her like she was something. Human. And for the first time in a very long time, she wanted to live. "Cover yourself, kid." The ship hummed softly as it left the market behind. The stars stretched across the dark sky, and the ugly planet became small and far away. Inside, the ship, Silence filled the space, except for the hum of engines and the sound of shallow breathing. The girl sat on a bench, wrapped in the long coat and blanket. She looked small, too small for someone that had survived so much. Her bare feet didn't touch the floor. Her hands clutched the coat like it was her last piece of safety. The human moved around the ship. He didn't look at her too much. He didn't force her to speak. He simply checked the controls, made tea, and set some food near her. She didn't touch it. He sighed, pulled up a chair, and sat a little distance away. "Name's Mason," he said finally, not looking at her. "Captain, I guess. Though I've never been good at bossing anyone around." The girl stayed quiet. She looked at the cup of tea like it was poison. Mason reached into a drawer and pulled out a data pad. He scrolled for a moment. "Looks like you weren't even registered. No ID, no history, no record of your species either." He glanced at her, but she didn't move. "You're like a ghost, kid," he said softly, "a ghost that breathes." Suddenly her shoulders twitched. He noticed. She had heard him. She was listening. He leaned forward slightly. "You don't have to talk. Not yet. But I need to do something first." He stood, walked away, and returned with a bundle of simple clothes. Soft fabric, not fancy, just clean. He set them on the bench beside her. "Cover yourself, kid," he said gently. "No one should see you like that. Not even me." Her eyes moved for the first time. Slowly, carefully. She pulled the clothes toward her. Her fingers shook. It had been a long time since someone gave her something without asking for anything back. Mason turned his back and walked to the cockpit. He gave her time. Minutes passed. Then he heard a sound. Very soft. She had changed. Her bare legs were now covered. Her arms were inside sleeves. The coat still hung on her shoulders like armor. Mason walked back, saw her dressed, and gave a small nod. "Looks better on you than on the floor." She looked away, but her hands weren't shaking now. He picked up the untouched food and brought it closer. "It's warm. Tastes like real soup. Not great, but better than starving." She looked at the bowl. She looked at him. Then, slowly, she took it. Her hands held the bowl tight. She lifted it to her lips and took the smallest sip. Her eyes widened. It was good. Mason smiled. "Told you." She ate slow, careful, like she was afraid it might be taken away. Like every bite could be the last. When the bowl was empty, she placed it down. She didn't say thank you. She didn't smile. But she didn't curl up in the corner either. It was progress. Mason leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. "You don't have to trust me. Not yet. But I'm not selling you, not using you. You're free now." Her eyes flickered. Free. Did she even know what that word meant? He watched her for a moment, then said, "You're gonna need a name." She blinked. "You got one?" She stayed silent. "All right," he said. "No rush. You can pick one when you're ready. For now, I'll just call you Kid. Works for me?" She didn't reply, but her body relaxed, just a little. That night, Mason showed her the sleeping room. She stood in the doorway, unsure. "You can sleep in here. Door locks from inside. Safe, warm." He pointed to the bed, the blanket, the light switch. Then he stepped out and said one last thing before walking away. "You're not cargo. You're not a pet. You're a person, kid." He left her alone. Inside the room, she stared at the bed. It was soft, clean, and didn't have bars. She climbed onto it like she was walking on clouds. She pulled the blanket close. For the first time, no chain held her neck, no cold floor beneath her, and in that quiet, warm space, she closed her eyes, not in fear, but in peace, learning the human's name. The ship floated quietly through space. No alarms, No shouting. No pain. The girl woke slowly. Her eyes blinked at the soft light above her. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she touched the blanket, the clothes, the bed. She remembered. She wasn't in a cage anymore. She sat up and looked around the small room. No locks, no bars, just walls. And silence. Carefully, she stepped out and followed the faint smell of something warm. In the main room, the human, Mason, stood at a small stove near the ship's kitchen wall. A pan sizzled. He was humming a slow tune. Not a song she knew. Not a sound of danger. He turned and saw her. "Morning, kid," he said casually, like they'd known each other for years. "You sleep okay?" She said nothing. He nodded anyway. "Thought I'd make eggs. Kind of. Synthetic, but hey, it's better than market soup." She stood in the doorway, silent, eyes watching everything. He didn't move toward her, just filled a plate, set it gently on the table, then stepped back. She walked forward slowly, like the table might vanish. Mason sat across from her but didn't eat. "Just you and me on this ship," he said. "No one to bother us. I do cargo, runs, pick up stuff, drop it off, sometimes help people when I can." She took a bite, chewed, swallowed, looked up. "Why?" she whispered. Her voice was rough, like it hadn't been used in years. Mason raised his eyebrows. "That's your first word?" He smiled. "Why?" She nodded. He looked down at the table. "Because someone helped me once, when I had nothing. No home. No food. No family. He didn't ask for anything, just gave me a second chance." She tilted her head slightly. "So," Mason said softly, "when I saw you in that cage, I remembered. I thought maybe I could be that person for someone else." She looked at him quietly, studying, measuring, still unsure. He didn't push. After breakfast, he showed her around the ship. "This is the engine room," he said. "Don't touch anything in here. It bites." He grinned. She nodded slowly. "This is the med bay. If you're hurt or sick, come here." She stepped inside and looked at the white walls, the clean bed, the bottles lined up neatly. It smelled like something sharp and safe. "This here's the cockpit," Mason continued. "Where I fly the ship." She stared at the big window, space stretched like black velvet with shining diamonds. Her breath caught in her throat. She had never seen stars like this before. "You like it?" Mason asked. She gave the smallest nod. He chuckled. "Me too. Reminds me how small we are." Then he pointed to the pilot seat. "Want to try it?" She shook her head quickly. "All right," he said, stepping away. "Another time." That evening, they sat on the floor of the ship's lounge. Mason was fixing a broken screen. The girl sat nearby, watching his hands work. He glanced up. "You got a name yet?" She shook her head. "You want one?" She thought for a long moment, then nodded. "All right then," he said, thinking. "You're quiet, sharp, tough. What about—" He paused. "Nova?" She looked unsure. "No?" He asked. She hesitated, then pointed at him. Mason raised an eyebrow. "You want me to tell you my name again?" She nodded. "Mason," he said, pointing to himself. "Captain Mason. Just Mason is fine." She tried to say it. Son," he smiled wide. "There you go." She said it again. "Mason," he laughed gently. "You remember my name? I'll remember yours once you pick it." She looked down, thinking. After a moment she said, barely a whisper, "Star." Mason tilted his head. "Star?" She nodded. A name she gave herself. Something small, something light. "Star it is," he said, holding out his hand. She looked at it, unsure, then slowly reached forward and touched his palm. Not a handshake, but a beginning. The first word, she spoke days passed slowly in the silence of space. Star, her new name, was learning how to exist again. She moved carefully through the ship. She slept on the soft bed. She ate the food Mason cooked. She watched him fix things, clean things, talk to himself. He didn't ask her for anything. He never raised his voice. But most importantly, he never looked at her like she was a thing. He treated her like a person. Still, she rarely spoke, just listened, always watched. Mason didn't push her. He talked as if they were already friends. "Star," he'd say, "you know what this is?" He'd hold up a tool or a fruit or a screw. Sometimes she'd shake her head. Sometimes she'd nod. She listened to every word. Each one was a small light in her dark world. One evening, the ship docked at a quiet spaceport. Mason had to trade supplies. He told Star she could stay in the ship if she wanted. She sat near the window and watched him walk away. She waited. 5 minutes, 10, 15. She stood suddenly. She rushed to the cockpit. She stared through the glass. He was still in view, talking to a vendor. But her chest felt tight. Fear came back like a storm. What if he didn't return? What if this was the end? What if she was alone again? She dropped to the floor, clutching her chest. Breathe. Just breathe. She whispered the name she had memorized in her heart. Mason. A voice. Her voice. It came out without planning, but it was real. Later that night, Mason came back with a bag of fresh supplies and a smile. "I got fruit, real ones," he said, pulling one out. "Ever had a Zaki peach?" She stared at him. Then, slowly she walked over and did something she had never done before. She reached out, took the fruit from his hand, and said clearly, "Thank you." Mason froze. His eyes widened. Then a smile broke across his face like sunshine. "Well, damn. You do talk." Star looked down, shy. Mason knelt and said softly, "Your voice is yours. Use it when you want. I'll always listen." Her hands shook a little, but her voice didn't break this time. "You came back," she whispered. "Of course I did," he said. "I always will." That night they ate together on the floor. Star chewed the Zaki peach. It was sweet. She smiled. Not forced, not fake. A real smile. "Where are we going?" she asked. Mason leaned back. "Somewhere better than here." She tilted her head. "You'll see," he said, ruffling her hair gently. She didn't flinch. Not anymore. Next day, Mason gave her a small task. "Here," he said, handing her a data pad. "This screen's cracked. Can you remove it?" Star took the tool he gave her and tried. Her hands were unsure at first, but he guided her. "You've got good fingers," he said. "Quick, careful." She looked proud. "Maybe you'll be my co-pilot soon," he teased. Star's eyes lit up. "Really?" "Yeah," Mason said, laughing. "But only if you promise not to crash the ship." "I won't," she said seriously. "I believe you," he said. And he did. That night, Star stood at the big window in the cockpit. Stars glowed like fireflies, endless, quiet, far. Mason stood beside her. She pointed to one. "What's that?" "That?" he said. "That's the Dorian Belt. Dangerous place. Pirates, wrecks, storms. Not a place for kids." She nodded slowly. "I was there once," he added. "Barely made it out." "You scared?" she asked. He smiled. "Yeah, scared, but I made it through." She looked at him for a long moment, then said softly, "Me too." The scar on her back, the ship flew through calm space. The stars blinked quietly, like they were watching. Inside, Mason worked in the engine room. Star sat nearby, legs crossed, watching him fix a coolant leak. She liked watching him. His hands were steady, his voice calm. He never shouted, never rushed her, but something still lived inside her, something cold and quiet, a fear that didn't leave. That fear had a shape, and it lived on her back. It was late when Mason said, "Star, I need to scan you." Just a simple checkup. You've been eating better, but I want to make sure you're okay inside. Star looked nervous. No needles, he added quickly. Just lights. Scan bed. That's all. She hesitated, then nodded. They went to the med bay. Mason helped her onto the table. As she turned, the coat slipped from her shoulders. Her shirt shifted, and Mason saw it. A large, ugly scar, deep and burned, stamped across her back. A jagged, cruel mark. Letters twisted in a language he didn't understand, but the meaning was clear. It was a brand. Star froze when she saw his face. His eyes were no longer calm. His hands had clenched. His jaw was tight. She panicked. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Mason blinked, realizing her fear. No, Star, don't be sorry." "I didn't ask for it," she said in a tiny voice. "I didn't want it." "I know," he said, kneeling beside her. His voice shook. "I know, kid. That mark, that's not who you are." She turned, her face away. Mason stood up and walked to a drawer. He took a deep breath, grabbed a scanner, and came back. "Let me check your health," he said quietly. "We'll talk later." The scan showed low iron, a few bruised ribs, and old bone fractures. But she was alive. A fighter. Later, Mason sat alone in the cockpit, staring into space. His fists were tight. Someone had hurt her. Someone had owned her. Someone had left that scar. And now, those same monsters might be out there, looking for her. He made a decision. The next day, he gave her a small necklace, a silver star on a cord. She stared at it. "Not a gift," Mason said. "A promise." "What promise?" "That no one will ever hurt you again." She took the necklace, slowly, her fingers trembling. "What if they find me? Then they'll find me first." Later that night, she asked something new. "Do you hate them?" Mason didn't answer at first. "I hate what they did," he said, "but I don't want to be like them. I want to protect." She looked down at her hands. "I used to dream someone would come save me. I stopped dreaming after a while. But I still came," he said gently. She nodded. "And now?" he asked. She looked up. "I think I want to start dreaming again." The next morning, Mason cleaned the med bay. Star walked in. She wasn't wearing the coat anymore, just the clothes he had given her, and the necklace. "Your scar," Mason said gently. "We can hide it. I have skin patches. Or we can keep it." "Why? Keep it?" she asked. "It's your story," he said. "Not your shame." She thought for a moment. Then she said, "Keep it. I want to remember that I lived." Mason gave her a proud smile. That day, she sat in the co-pilot seat for the first time. Her hands didn't shake. She looked out at the stars, a scar on her back, but light in her eyes. They came for her. Star had just started to smile again. She laughed once that morning, really laughed, when Mason dropped a box of tools on his foot and danced around cursing quietly. Her laugh was soft and short, but to Mason it sounded like music, a sign of healing. They were headed toward a peaceful trading hub, just to stop for fuel and some food. Mason let Star guide the ship with her hands on the control wheel while he gave her directions. "You're a natural," he said. "Next stop, co-pilot's license." Star grinned, proud. She wore her silver star necklace, and the coat now rested, folded on her bed. She didn't need it like armor anymore, but peace never lasts forever, not for people like her. It began with a blinking red light. Alert. Incoming ship. No ID. No comms. High speed. Mason's face went hard in an instant. "Star, get to the back room." "What is it?" "Trouble. Lock the door. Stay hidden." She didn't argue. She ran. Mason turned the ship, tried to shake the signal, but the enemy vessel stayed close, like a hunter with the scent of blood. Minute later, the screen lit up. Incoming message. Audio only. A low voice growled, Return our property. Mason didn't respond. Final warning, human. We tracked her signal. The branded one belongs to us. Mason smashed the screen with his fist. The ship shuddered. A magnetic harpoon had hit them, locking the enemy ship to theirs. Mason grabbed a blaster. The hallway lights flickered red. The enemy was boarding. He turned to the hallway. And there, she was, Star, standing outside the medbay, shaking but holding a wrench. I told you to hide. I won't let them take me. They won't, Mason growled. But I need you safe. Before he could say more, the doors blew open. 2 armored aliens stormed in, tall, red-skinned. One had a blade. The other had an electric prod. Give us the girl, one hissed. She was not meant to be free. Mason stepped in front of her. She's not yours. She was bought. Branded. She was abused. The alien laughed. You think kindness will protect her? You're soft. She belongs to the House of Carr. Star's eyes widened. The word Carr shook her bones. It was the name whispered. In the dark when she was a prisoner. The name of her owner. No more, she whispered. They didn't hear her. But Mason did. The first alien lunged. Mason fired. The blaster shot struck the alien's shoulder, but he kept coming. Mason dodged, rolled, fired again. One down. The second alien grabbed Mason's arm, twisting it. The blaster fell. Take the girl, he shouted. Star screamed as the alien reached for her, but instead of running, she swung the wrench. Crack. The metal hit the alien's helmet. It cracked. The alien snarled and backhanded her, sending her crashing into the wall. Star. Mason shouted. Fueled by rage, he grabbed the fallen blaster and shot again. This time, the alien collapsed. Smoke filled the hallway. Sparks flew. The ship trembled. But it was over. The enemy ship detached and drifted. Mason crawled to Star. She was bleeding from her lip, arms shaking, but alive. You okay? She nodded, barely. I told you to hide, he said, voice tight with fear. She looked up at him, tears in her eyes. I'm tired of hiding. Later, Mason patched her up in the med bay. She winced as he cleaned the cut on her cheek. You were brave, he said softly. She stared at the floor. I was scared, she admitted. So was I, he said, smiling. She reached out and gripped his hand. I don't want to go back, she whispered. You never will, he promised. That night, she slept beside the cockpit window, wrapped in a blanket, watching the stars. Mason sat next to her. She leaned her head on his shoulder, and in the silence she asked, Will they come again? Maybe, he said honestly. But next time, we'll be ready. A new name, a new life. The stars outside. The ship were calm again. No alarms, no hunters, no fear. Just the quiet hum of the engines and the slow beating of 2 hearts. One human, one alien, both healing. Star walked through the ship like it truly belonged to her now. Her steps were quiet but strong. Her eyes, once empty, now held a fire Mason hadn't seen before. She still jumped at sudden sounds. She still flinched when someone moved too fast, but she always stood back up. And she never stopped learning. They landed on a small green planet, safe, far from trade routes, a place known for clean water, peaceful people, and forgotten stories. I have an old friend here, Mason explained. A doctor, ex-military, doesn't ask questions. Star followed him through tall grass. The air was fresh, the sky soft blue. She looked up at it like it was something she had never seen. Maybe it was. The doctor was a woman with silver hair and kind eyes. She greeted Mason with a hug and looked at Star with warmth. Not pity, not judgment. Bring her in, the doctor said. Let's take a look. Inside the cozy house, Star sat on a soft table while the doctor gently checked. She's healing, the doctor said. Physically, she'll be fine. But the damage done to the soul, that takes longer. Mason nodded. He already knew. Star stared at the floor. She doesn't talk much? The doctor asked. She speaks when she chooses, Mason said proudly. Star looked up and whispered, I'm learning. The doctor smiled. You're doing just fine. That night, Mason and Star sat on the porch outside the house. Stars glittered above. She turned to him and said, I don't think I'm Star anymore. He looked at her surprised. No, she shook her head. Star was lost. Star was scared. Star was someone hiding. Then who are you now? She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Hope. Mason blinked. Hope? She nodded slowly. Because that's what I felt the first time you looked at me. Not fear, not hunger, just hope. He smiled, eyes glassy. That's a beautiful name. She smiled back. It's mine now. The next day, Mason and Hope helped the doctor deliver supplies to a nearby village. Hope carried boxes. She gave food to children. One of the small alien kids hugged her by accident. She froze, then slowly hugged back. Mason watched from a distance, heart full. He knew now. This wasn't just about saving her. This was about saving both of them. A week later, Mason prepared the ship for travel again. Hope stood beside him in a clean uniform, one just her size, her silver star necklace still around her neck, shining bright. Ready, co-pilot? He asked. She grinned. Ready, Captain. As they lifted off the planet, she sat in the second seat. Her fingers danced across the buttons, slow, careful, focused. Where are we going next? She asked. Mason smirked. Wherever we want, she laughed. Clear, light, beautiful. The stars welcomed them back. And this time, Hope wasn't running from the past. She was flying toward the future.